I think we're live. How do people start lives? I have not even watched that, but we're just going to do our own thing. Hey, everybody. This is our first Class with Kate live. So exciting. 2026. This is a crazy, crazy time. I'm so excited for this year, for everything I have planned, and for everything that's going to change. All things new. I wonder how everyone's doing with the new year. I feel like I went through a time where I was like, oh, you don't have to start new things in the new year. And I kind of like abandoned it for a little bit. But now I am kind of embracing it again. Maybe it's because this is like will be the first full year of like posting, of having my license, of all of these new things. And so it's just, I think, a really exciting time. I'm feeling very good vibes. So what we're doing now, and just an introduction to this. So this is officially Class with Kate. I'm going to be streaming live every Tuesday and Wednesday morning. And ideally, well, I don't know if it's morning where you are, but it's morning where I am. It's 10:30. I'm in Central Time. And the way it's going to be structured is Tuesday mornings, we're going to have a caller. If you guys can imagine, I get a lot of DMs and comments and messages for further like one-on-one help. And I do obviously therapy with individuals, but that's private, that's protected by HIPAA. And I've started also doing consultations, like where I'll meet 1 to 5 times with people, and it's more diagnostic and assessment focused. So the goal is to help people get longer term care. And in those consultations, I'll obviously hear parts of their story, and there's therapeutic elements to it. Even if it's not formal therapy, it's not a formal long-term relationship protected by HIPAA, etc. And anyway, as I've been seeing clients, I've been like, man, this stuff is so important for everybody to know. And the more I post on social media, and the more I do consultations and therapy with people, even, the more I've realized that there is such an educational gap in what people understand and know about mental health, emotional health, relational health in particular. And I swear, every single time someone comes into my office, what they're struggling with are issues related to their relationships. They either started in relationships, so they started in their attachment relationships with their primary caregivers and their parents and their siblings or extended family or whoever their family was. Or they're struggling in their relationships today, and mental health symptoms come up in those relationships. And so people don't know that. People don't have the point of view that I get to have just being the therapist in these situations. And so what I created this show to be, this call-in show, kind of part 1 of Class with Kate on Tuesday mornings, is to educate the public and the people on the process of helping people find insight. So this is obviously not therapy. I'm not starting a long-term relationship with these people. A lot of them don't live in my state. They don't live in Tennessee, where I can legally do therapy. So, but there is a way to bridge the gap between like people sharing their issues and it being an interaction, and hopefully I can be of some help. And, what we need to understand, so that's why we're doing this on Tuesdays. And the second part of this, which will be Wednesday mornings, is going to be actually talking about the call, talking about the client's problems, educating you on the context of it. You know, that's so much of what I post online is the context of your problems, the context of, you know, your anxiety in a marriage. You know, so much of it is just zooming out and let's look at the family system. Let's look at the context. And so that's what I'm going to be doing Wednesdays, is like, we're going to be talking about the call that happened Tuesday. And Wednesdays is going to be a little bit more structured, where we're going to talk about the client. We're going to talk about their context and educate you on the context aspect of it. Then this is, I think, the most interesting part that I hope you'll leave with, that you will leave with insight into my head and insight into how I'm approaching this person and these problems with and this is the fourth goal of it, so that you can leave having internalized maybe some of that process for yourself. Class with Kate and everything I do online is to ideally help you build the internal skills to kind of be your own therapist, be your own parent, be your own leader. And so the second kind of part of the the class Wednesday will be shedding some light on what's going on in my head and my process and how I see this person. And I think you'll get a lot from that. I swear, like for me, going to therapy school and learning to be a therapist was not just how do I help other people, but it was almost an immersion program of how do I help myself? What do I do in my relationships? And so that's what we're doing this year, 2026. Like this is my commitment, is every Tuesday and Wednesday morning when I can, of course, unless there's an emergency or my daughter's sick or whatever, for us to have this structure where Tuesdays we're doing a call and Wednesdays we're doing class and just talking about it. Thursday mornings, I do my kind of formal class that's private, and you can, you pay for it. And I kind of talk about more niche topics. Like in January, we're doing estrangement, and the title is Overcoming Your Inner Estranged Parent. So I'm going to teach people therapy concepts, and again, it's all going back to how do you be your own therapist? How do you repair the damage if you have a parent that you're estranged from? Because obviously that's part of why you're estranged, is that they caused you a lot of damage, not just in the relationship with you, but because they were your parent, they caused a lot of internal damage. And what therapy is, what this class is going to be, is independent of the relationship with them. How do we deal with the residue, the damage, collateral damage? Like, how do we repair that and restore the relationship you have with yourself? That's always what this is about. Ultimately, is restoring the relationship you have with yourself, no matter what relationships you're in, no matter what kind of relationships you're in. So that's what we're doing this year, is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, bam, bam, bam. This will be on Apple and Spotify too. And so yeah, I'm very excited personally, because my bigger goals and what I want to use my own education and experience for is making everything accessible, affordable, and that it all makes sense to the general public. That's my goal, to bridge this educational gap when it comes to mental, emotional, and relational health. So we have a caller scheduled today. We don't really know how this is going to go. Sometimes, things happen. And so kind of while we're waiting on that, I'm just going to talk generally about something that's been on my mind for, I don't know, maybe a week or two, but it's kind of fully come to a place now where I feel like I have words. It's such a process. If you do creative things, you know that creating something from nothing and even reciting it's a whole like bottom up process. At least it is for me, where I can't just look at something and be like, okay, I'm going to talk about that. Like, it has to be in my body. Right. So what I want to kind of briefly discuss, if this, while we're waiting on the caller or not in general, is the disappointment and disillusionment of parents and older people. And I'm like going to be, I don't know if vulnerable is the word, but I'm going to share part of my understanding of that in general, because I think that's such a topic in this estrangement discussion. Is you have estranged parents and older people saying, I just want my kids to see me as human, like I saw my parents. Like there was a point in time where you grow up and you see your parents as people, you see them as human, you see them for just being flawed individuals and not kind of the gods that we think that they are when we're kids naturally. And so that's like what we hear a lot from these older parents, estranged parents, and older people. And I've even seen it trickle down into parents now. So many people that are in my comments or follow my videos say, you know, they argue with things when I say like, it's not healthy for you to share your emotions about your kids' behavior with your kids. Like that's not healthy. And their qualm is like, but I want my kids to know that I'm human. Why can't I just be human? And so it trickles down. And, you know, so this is what I want to kind of talk about today, because that's, I think, a lot of the process is of growing up and going through developmental stages and having new things open. I think of like a flower, or, you know, like a Christmas tree when they like take off when it's all wrapped up and then they like cut the strings and it like all comes out. That's what development is like. That's what childhood to adulthood is like. It's kind of like cutting one string at a time. And so then at some point the whole tree is out and you see all the branches. And I think part of that process is really, really difficult. And I'm going to talk about me first here. When I started posting I started posting about estrangement in particular in April. And I came in so earnestly, so eagerly wanting to share my like point of view, just having kind of insider knowledge around estrangement, having worked with so many people around this. And, you know, I just mean too around their own issues and how it relates to their family system, their family of origin. And so I came into this so eager. And I not only got backlash from estranged parents, but from a lot of older therapists. And I say older because that is a factor. Like there's no age shaming here, but I think age really is a factor in this, because when you think about an older person, I mean, maybe, and this isn't just me, I'm not going to say maybe it's just me, because I know it's not. I know it's, you know, when you're a kid, you see adults, like, you know that they're different than you in certain ways. And so when I came on here, I was like, okay, I'm a professional, you know, like surely people are going to be yearning for this information, because there seems to be a lot of confusion and upset. And I, you know, obviously see other people talking about this, but maybe not in the way that I'm going to talk about it, which is like in the family systems way, which is, you know, about inherited things and the power of being a parent. And I got so much backlash, and I continue to get it. And while I have kind of protective measures in place to, you know, safeguard myself from internalizing that hate. I mean, I don't like to use the word hate. It's just kind of a label to put it all in a category, but it took me a while to kind of break down the reasons for it. And like, oh my gosh, I can't believe older people are talking to younger people like this. Like, I'm obviously younger than a lot of them, but I want to talk about the age thing, because it's a factor. We inherently kind of grow up to believe like people are older than us. They know more, you know, they are wiser. There's like a different expectation for older people to act a certain way. And I think that's what so many adult children and younger people are experiencing, like this disillusionment of that and the grief of that in this process, like not just in the estrangement conversation, but in general. I think that's obviously a part of growing up. That's part of like cutting the strings on the Christmas tree, is going through that realization process of like, holy shit, these people don't know more than me. They don't know they, just because they're older, it doesn't mean they're wiser. It doesn't mean I respect their decisions. It doesn't mean I want to be like them. And that's a really painful process. So I'm talking about myself when I got this from estranged parents. But I've experienced this personally in posting as a therapist. I started posting when I was a student, and so I didn't have my license. I wasn't even, well, I think I started posting too when I was seeing clients. So I was seeing clients as an intern, which means that you're still in your graduate program. But you have a lot of supervision, and legally, you're not practicing on your own. That's illegal to do as a because you're not a therapist yet. And when I came online as a student, it's said in my bio, like I'm a student. And when I started sharing information that I believed in or that I was learning in school that I thought everybody should know, I got so much criticism and hate from licensed therapists, from older people, like older as in more experienced, I guess I should say. I mean, age again does play a factor. Like, we're not gonna not talk about age. There's a way to talk about it. I guess that's not shaming. I hope I'm not doing that. But point being that I was so crushed by that at the time, because I looked up to licensed therapists at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, they're licensed. They have all this power. They can do whatever they want. They know so much more than me. And I inherently, again, naturally put them on this pedestal, I guess, of, okay, their licensure means X, Y, Z about them. And I remember even with my professors, like, you go into school thinking that. And that's a smart thing to think, that my professors know more than me, or they know how to handle situations better. I can trust them, that they're going to have my best interest when they're talking to me. I trust them that they understand the power that they have in this conversation with me, because I'm so impressionable and I'm so, vulnerable to, and I don't know, fragile, but vulnerable to them and what they think. And again, when I started posting online, and I got therapists would follow me to comment on all of my videos, criticizing it. And I remember at the time just going through that internal battle of like, okay, best case scenario, they're trying to be helpful. Worst case scenario, they just don't think I should be posting and want to make me small. And I will say I even experienced this at my school. Like, when my school and my professors found out that I was posting online, it did not go over well. They really, I wouldn't say they forced me to stop posting, but they really encouraged me to. And at that time, I was really scared of the power they had. I was like, oh, well, I guess they could technically kick me out of the program. They could technically talk to all the other therapists in town and prevent me from getting my license. Like, I didn't know, all I knew was that I was doing something new that felt right to me, that was fun, that was making a difference. Even as a student, I would get people saying, oh my gosh, like, I didn't know this, or, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. Like, I was hearing like two things, and they were opposite things. And it was such a confusing time. And so in my own kind of process of going from student to intern to pre-licensed professional, if you guys have been following my stuff, too, that I stopped posting for a while. Like, I posted on and off because of, I would say it was to take a break, to focus on my other stuff, like to build my practice and to, whatever. But the reality is that I was really scared to post because of the power these people had online and in real life, my professors. And I'll say, don't look at this group, but you almost should look at it, because I think this is important for you to know. I even joined a Reddit group. There's a therapists Reddit group, and it is the most toxic place on earth. I remember, again, I needing help with all of these things, like I just had all these questions about posting online and being a therapist and the ethics and wanting to do it right and understanding the power of that position. And it was honestly the most toxic place. And I got the same reaction of, you should not be doing this, and you're actually a terrible person for wanting to do this. And so for me personally, like in the past 5 years, 6 years of me starting school, going through the program, going through the licensure process, and then now being on the other side, being fully licensed and posting online kind of freely, I've overcome a lot of that, but it was a process of grief and disillusionment. And when I say grief, I mean like anger, anger at the injustice of it, anger at how do these people not know how they're coming off? How do they not know the vulnerability of my position? Like, I'm just a student. Like, I don't. And so, all to say, just from that point of view, I hate to say this now. I like fantasize about saying this. I've fantasized about saying this and how this would go down, but I'm in a place now where I'm like grateful for the trauma, you know? I hate to say that, but without that trauma, I wouldn't have this unique perspective and sensitivity to the power of my position. And I'm was fortunate enough to learn this when I was in school. And so I really put myself out there and got that, I don't know if feedback is the word, but like I got that life experience to really go through it myself, like to walk through the fire, rake myself over the coals, basically, to get this knowledge from a place of experience and not just cognitive knowledge. So maybe wisdom is the word. That's actually the word. And that goes back to how could these people not be wise enough to know this stuff? Like, how could they not be, even these therapists that were professors, like therapists online, how could they not have enough empathy to understand how what they're doing and saying is coming off to someone like me when there's a power differential? So all to say is like, I've been through that excruciating process of disillusionment and grief. And through it, obviously, I've come out on the other side of like, now I understand that age doesn't mean wisdom. Now I understand that someone being licensed doesn't mean they're a good person. Like, doesn't mean they treat people well. It doesn't mean that they understand the impact of their behavior. Like, it doesn't. I've like been able through that experience to really strip down the associations I had that were inaccurate, that were like logical fallacies, essentially. Like, just because someone's older than me, it doesn't mean I have to listen to them. Just because they're licensed doesn't mean they're my authority figure. And linking this to estrangement and adult children and this stuff, I'm worried about coming off as patronizing, because I feel like this is a lot of what people know. They're like, yeah, I mean, I know my parent isn't an authority figure in my life. Like, I know that. And what I would add is that in this issue of estrangement and like the inner work we have to do as a result of it, it's an emotional grieving process, and you have to feel your way through it. And the more I work with people, the more I talk to people online, people know so much, but they don't know how to feel. Like, no one ever taught them how to feel, and they don't have the structure of their life in place to actually feel this grief, to feel this anger, and to actually let it transform them in a way that is healing. And so I don't know, because that may not be accurate for you, but the Oprah podcast, you know, like we look at these estranged parent creators, like one of them had a Wall Street Journal article recently. I remember that came up on my feed and I was like, oh, no, this is crazy. Like, what planet are we living on where these people, Oprah, Mel Robbins came out with that article of, you know, life is too short to cut off your family, basically. Like, and then there's estranged parents online that are having such a platform. Even therapists that are, yes, they are, a lot of them are older. All of them are older than me. That's for sure. 10 years older than me. Whether they're just a creator, there's like one creator in particular who's like always baiting the boomers about this estrangement stuff. And they're so wrong. And I'm just like, how is this possible that they have been through life? Like they've literally gone through the developmental stages that younger people are in now, and leave it with so like no empathy, no space, no understanding of what young people are going through. Like what younger therapists are going through, what adult children are going through, college, the world, like having to find a job, families, like starting a family. Like me, I'm married and I have a baby. She's 18 months now. And it's like it was the most vulnerable time of my life, you know, being a student in grad school, not knowing if I was going to get licensed, not knowing all this stuff was the most vulnerable time in my life. Like everything up until this point was the most vulnerable time in my life. I don't feel that way anymore. Like I really don't. I feel like things are locked down and I have a foundation now, but like and I'm 33, like everything up until this point was hard and I was I was on the bottom here of the power differential. And it just shocks me that older people, I don't know if they forget, I don't know if they're just resistant to looking at that, but it's the disappointment is so real looking at these older people that are in power positions, Oprah, Mel Robbins. And I would say these estranged parent content creators because they're older. So everyone, you know, when people say, you know, Kate, just wait till you have a kid, you'll feel differently. Like they have that up on you because you haven't been through that. You know, it's kind of an inarguable thing where it's like, I mean, you're right. I hear that all the time. People are like, Kate, because I'm so clear about some parenting things. And I hear all the time, people are like, Kate, you know, you haven't raised a teenager. Like, I wonder if this is going to change when you do have kids. And every time somebody has told me that in my life, whether it's like, just wait till you're an adult, you'll feel differently. Just wait till you're the XYZ, you'll feel differently. It's 100% of the time a projection. And it plays on my fear, like, oh my God, like maybe I am wrong about this. And then, but every single time I've been more clear, sure, as I've gotten older, but the foundation of it really hasn't changed. And so, all to say is that the trust is just not there. And, you know, the trust, and that's what young people are dealing with. And the hardest thing about it, I think, is that the trust isn't there, sure, but the need for it is so there. Like, I think it's so vulnerable of me to say this, and like, I'm speaking on behalf of estranged adult children too, but like, they need you, you know, like even as adults, they need you. And I hear that all the time. Like, life is so hard. People need mentors. People need guidance. They don't have it. That's why people love watching me online, because I'm so clear. I'll tell you like it is. And like, it's information that people are thirsty, hungry for, desperate for, because it's missing. And that's the saddest part about this whole estrangement thing to me, is like, if we cut through the bullshit language of like, this is a coward culture, this is a victim culture, this is abuse and neglect. I know I use all those terms a lot. I don't pathologize and I don't call names. I have said that people's behavior is stupid. I think I said that one time. But anyway, point being is that the vulnerability of this, the heart of this, is that your kids are having a really hard time. And they need you. You know, I was having such a hard time being a student and posting online and dealing with all this backlash. I needed mentorship. I needed older, more experienced therapists to say, Kate, like, you are doing it. And I had that, like, you know, ratio wise, it was probably like 1 to 5. You know, the negative stuff feels really big, but reality wise, it wasn't like 1 to 1,000. It was like, you know, for every positive comment, I get 5 negative ones from therapists, or critical ones, or whatever. But I needed that so badly at that time. I needed people to say, Kate, you're doing great. Like, this is okay. You're within your boundaries. You're not doing anything wrong. In fact, here is maybe some things you can improve, and maybe you are doing something wrong, but here's what you can do better. Here's the way to do it. And I needed that leadership and mentorship, and I didn't get that. I actually, I did. When I graduated my program, I found the best supervisor ever. And I feel like I owe her my life because she saw me and she told me, she was like, Kate, they just didn't understand you. And I was like, oh, like it feels that simple because the trauma was so painful. But I want to be like, no, they, purposely went out to kill me type of. That's how it felt. She was like, they just didn't understand you. And it's so true that when you only know harm and criticism and abuse, and like when you only know chaos, when you're born in a burning house, you only know fire, and you don't know what